Hello, Mark.
Hello, Nathan.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah, good. It's Mark. I got the right way. Look, Mark Westguard from WS Form joining us today to talk all about. We're going to have a conversation about politics today. Mark doesn't know
Don't do
this,
that.
but no, yeah, we've decided no. We're going to talk about forms in WordPress, particularly WS Form. Just a quick bit of context. Mark and I decided a little while ago we'd throw together this series, so we're doing this live because it's a good way of doing it. You never know, an audience might show up, maybe not. But the principle really is to get the content created, and then he can put it where he puts it. I can put it where I put it. He can link to it, and so on and so forth. But because we are doing it live, if you fancy dropping in some commentary, last time we had a few people who asked a couple of questions. So if at some point today you're confused or you want to know anything about WS Form, well, Mark knows the answer. And if he doesn't know the answer, well, I don't know who does. But yeah, so if at any point during the course of today's presentation you want to drop in a question, I'll try to provide a little bit of time at the end. If not, we'll just end it a little bit earlier. But just a couple of quick bits of housekeeping. If you do feel that somebody might benefit from this, just send them to that URL. It's wpbuilds.com/live. Send them there, and if they're logged into a Google account, they can comment because it's YouTube comments. If you're on our Facebook channels, then you have to go through a further step. You have to go to chat.restream.io/FB. Otherwise, we won't know who you are. Facebook keeps that information secret. It's about the only thing they do. Right, so there we go. The pitch is over. How has the last week been, Mike? I'm sure you were inundated by sales.
Well, it's we actually had some really good feedback from the last.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we had. Yeah, people just saying thank you, and just by watching it, they've learned a few things they didn't realise that it could do before. So,
that's
I think
great.
There's value in this. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're not looking for massive viewing during it. This is really a long-term resource that we can post and let people access later on. So
I'm posting them all on the wpbuilds.com website, and each time I produce a newsletter, I'm dropping in the link. So hopefully people have found it. In fact, if you go to the wpbuilds.com website, and at the top we've got a menu, as you might expect, and we've got one called Archives, and the Demos archive is where this is living. So you'll be able to see them all in there, and that's nice. Okay, so last week we touched on the sort of foundations of what it was that we that you do in WS Form. We just sort of made a beginning, showed around the interface and so on and so forth. And this week we're going to step the pace up a little bit. You wanted to just do a little bit of a slideshow first, didn't you? Shall I share that slide before we start?
a few things to run through. Yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, I wanted to mention the special offer we have with WP Builds. We didn't mention that last week. And if you are interested in buying WS Form, you can get 20% off through WP Builds. And if you go to wpbuilds.com/WP-Builds-deals, you will find the offer on that page. And it's 20% off, as I said, using coupon code WP Builds. So yeah, take advantage of that.
Cool. Thank you so much for doing that. That's really appreciated.
So today we're going to go through interactive forms. And first of all, what is an interactive form? And I must admit, I went on ChatGPT to try and get some explanation that worked well. But this is what it came back with. An interactive form provides real-time feedback and dynamically adjusts its behavior based on user interactions. I thought that was a good summary of it. The interactivity makes a form engaging, user-friendly, and efficient in collecting data. So in summary, what we're really going to be doing is switching things on and off on the form to make that form a bit easier to digest by the user. So if you've got a form with, say, 100 fields on it, you don't necessarily need them to fill out all of those fields. So you may switch off sections of fields or individual fields to make that easier to digest. And that will hopefully improve conversion ratio as well, which is ultimately what we want with a form.
Nice.
So there's several ways in WS Form that you can make a form interactive. You can use conditional logic, and we're going to touch on that first. And that's where you're checking a value or some other element on the form, and then based upon whether or not that's true or false, introducing behavior on the form, maybe hiding or showing something. We have variables, so you can use, say, hash calc, for example, to actually do calculations on a form to help a user out. So you could use that maybe to make a mortgage calculator or a car payments calculator. Cascading fields are where you basically drill down through information, perhaps with a car that would be make, model, style. So cascading fields can be used to drill down users to information they're looking for without giving them a massive list. So you're almost browsing through categories. Webhooks enable you to make calls off to third-party or even APIs that you have developed, and the information you get back from that webhook you can incorporate into that form. So you can take maybe something somebody's typed in, send that off to a webhook, get the data back, and then use that and show that on the form itself. And then actions are a little bit more advanced. That's where you can actually run things on the server, such as a WordPress hook. So you can actually run PHP on your server, send information back, and then show that on the form. So there's a variety of different ways that you can make a form interactive, and we're going to run through some of those today.
I love all this. This is where it's really going to shine, right? So that's
Yeah, this is where the power comes out.
Yeah, the grunt. Yeah, nice. Just in case you are interested, we have done one episode so far. I would say if you're watching this live, just stay with us for this one probably, and then you can always go back and watch that one. And Mark will be able to guide you around the interface. So if the interface looks unfamiliar and you've never seen it before, there is the previous video, number 1 in this series, which will give you all the lowdown on how to navigate the UI of WS Form. So shall I share your screen at this point? Are we at that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's get your screen up. Here we go.
All right, so yeah, last week we spoke about templates, and there is actually a demo template in WS Form. So if you click on the demo tab and then you go to conditional logic and click use template, there's a little template that we're going to run through now that just shows you how the conditional logic in WS Form works. So let me just preview this so you can see what we're looking at, just for a bit of fun. So what we've got here is a rating field, and it's asking us to give it a 5-star rating. So if I click on that, you'll notice a field appears, and then this is saying drop me down below 50. If I bring that below 50, another field appears.
Nice.
It's a bit bigger so we can see it. And choose the second radio button, and it shows another field. If we scribble in the signature field, that then shows a color field. If we change that color to a darker color, it will then ask us to type 3 words. And we do that. It's asking us to enter 2 checkboxes, and then that shows a button. Click the button, and we made it to the bottom of the conditional logic.
Nice. That's so contrived, but so cool at the same time.
Yeah, it's utterly random,
Yeah,
but it shows you what conditional logic does. So, so what we're doing is the conditional logic is just analyzing what state a field is in, and based upon the rules that we give it, it is then going to show or hide different things on the page. So let's start off with some really simple conditional logic, and I'll show you how that works. Now, conditional logic in WS Form is what we call form-centric, not field-centric. And what I mean by that is a lot of form plugins will have conditional logic on a field, and it may say, if the value of field X is equal to something, then show this field. And really, that's the extent of conditional logic with a lot of form plugins. They don't really go much further. So we wanted to make that a bit more powerful and a bit more fun. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add 3 text fields here. And we're going to open up the conditional logic. And that's done by clicking on the conditional logic icon at the top of the layout editor. And here's our conditional logic list. And you can add as many different conditions that you want for a form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this out and make it a bit bigger. And then we're going to click the add row icon on the right-hand side here. And that will then create a new condition for us. So you can call that whatever you like just by typing in a label for it immediately. And the first thing we're going to look at is the if condition at the top. So the if is basically going to say if something equals or doesn't equal or is greater than or less than or whatever it may be. Then if that's true, it will then run whatever under then. If it's not true, it will run whatever under else. So let's do a really simple one to begin with. So we'll say if. Now, when we click on that, you'll see that we've got several options. We can do stuff at a form level, a tab level, a section level, or a field level. You can also do stuff at a user level as well. So, for example, I could say if a user is logged in or has a role or has a capability. So you can actually switch things on and off on the form based upon the user's roles or capabilities. But we'll stick with a field for now. We'll just do if a text field. So if this text field, and then we choose the next drop down along, and you'll notice there's a ton of different stuff that comes up. Now this list is sensitive to the field type that you have selected in that first column there. So for a text field, we can say the usual stuff like, does it equal a value? Does it not equal? Does it contain a certain string? Does it start with, end with? Is it blank, not blank? But there's also some more advanced features like, does the character count equal something? So you could use that to say, okay, you've typed in too much, for example, and you could show a message. You can do it on word count. You can even go as far as matching JavaScript regex expressions. So if you're familiar with regex, and like we said in the past, we're not going to go into regex in this tutorial, but you can actually do regex checks with this as well. Furthermore, you can also check if a text field is validated or not validated. So, you can add things to a text field such as minimum character count, maximum character count. You can add pattern matching on them and things like that. So you can check to see whether a field is valid or not. You also have events on pretty much every field as well. So you can say, has this text field been clicked on? Has there been a mouse over event on it? Has there been a non-focus event on that text field? So you can see there's an incredible amount of different stuff that you can check with just an if condition on a text field. So let's do something simple to begin with. We'll just do equals. And let's just put A, B, C in there. You can determine whether you want that to be case sensitive or not. You can switch that on and off very easily with this checkbox on the right-hand side. You can also add additional conditions to an if statement. So you can say if text equals ABC, and then we could say or the text equals DEF. So as well as having the ands and ors between these different conditions, so basically just to explain ors and ands, this would be true if text equals ABC or the value is DEF. If we change that to and, that obviously would never be true because it's not going to equal ABC and DEF.
Yes.
But we would perhaps have a second text field and we could say if that equals DEF, then run this.
Yeah.
You can also do grouped ands and ors. So I can add another group and I can basically build very, very complex if conditions using these nested ands and or groups here. We'll keep it simple for now. We're just going to do an and between these two values. So on the then, we can then tell WS Form what we want to do if that condition is true. So we can do stuff at a form, tab, section, and field level. You can even run actions as well using conditional logic. So if you wanted to fire an email, for example, when that condition is true, I can say run that send email action immediately if this condition occurs. So there's an incredible amount of stuff that you can do when a condition is true or false. Let's just do something on that third text field for now. So we'll just do text field. And then here are the options we have for a text field. So we can set that visibility on that field to on or off. You can make that field required. You can focus on it. You can even add classes to it. So if you wanted to use some CSS to adjust how that field looks, you can actually add classes to it. So for now, let's do visibility. Let's actually make that hidden if that's false and make it visible if it's, hidden if it's true and visible if it's false. So if we save and close that and we'll preview it, we type in A, B, C, D, E, F. Oh, hang on, that's not working. Must have something wrong with my conditional logic.
Yeah, let's have a look. But this is normal, right? This is the process.
Yeah. Let's just make this a bit more simple. Let's just do ABC. We'll make that visible. Yep. And hang on. And in true lifestyle, my mouse has run out of battery. So we'll just talk
Ah,
about it for a minute.
okay.
Yeah, so the idea here is we're going to say if the text field 730 is equal to ABC, then we're going to make text field 732 visible. Otherwise, we're going to make it hidden. Okay.
You know your text field 730, we can obviously now see, because you've got the
Yep.
two things side by side, you've got your little
Yep.
sidebar and you've got you can see that the text field is clearly labeled as 730. Are
Yep.
you able, you are, right, you are able to rename that ID to something a bit more like, I don't know.
The IDs stay the same. They're
Oh, is
always
it? Okay.
numeric. Yeah, but you can change the label on the field. So we can change text to be my input. We could change the 732 to be my output. So yeah, you can change the field labels all the way through. And you'll notice that because we're looking at a condition, it's actually highlighted the fields in yellow. So you can see which fields on your form apply to that conditional logic.
So in the previous example where you had the DEF bound to ID 731,
Hmm.
that would also have been yellow. But because you've removed that
Correct.
condition, we're now seeing that at no point so far is the second field 731. That's got no conditional logic applied to it. So on a complicated
Correct.
big form, that's kind of super helpful, isn't it? Because anything
Yeah.
yellow, you've got to inspect and see where troubleshoot the yellow ones, not worry about the white ones. Got it?
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So if we save and close that, go back here. Yeah. So you'll see if I type in ABC
There it
on the
is.
text
Got it.
there, then it shows. If we get rid of that, it hides it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So, and as we were just saying, so if we wanted to rename that, this is kind of the stuff we were going through in last week's video,
Yeah.
then we can make it look a little bit easier. That way, when we edit the conditional logic, you're then going to see those field names there as opposed
That's
to just
that's
text.
exactly what I meant. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. So the
Yeah.
ID stays the same because that's something that's created by WS Form, but you could change the
Yeah.
name to something memorable. Got it. Got it.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a very, very simple example. And then let's have a look at a different type of field. So if we add let's just, for a bit of fun, we'll add a color field. So just put a color field under here. And if we go back into our conditional logic and we'll edit that condition again, make it a bit bigger. Actually, let's create a different condition. So we'll do one based on color. And if we choose if color, then you're going to see here that the options have now changed.
This
So
is
rather
mental.
than it, so so you can choose if it equals a hex value, if it has a hue level, a saturation, a lightness. So we can say lightness greater than a particular percent. So we'll do 50% brightness, and then on the then we can say let's do we'll put it in the output as well. On the output we'll do set value to bright and dark.
Okay, got it. I think I know what this is going to do. Great. Yep.
Yeah, so he's kind of getting the idea here.
Yep.
What we'll
Yep.
do
Yep.
as well, you'll notice on the right-hand side of conditionals here, you can actually disable. So just so that this one doesn't clash with what we're doing, just to be sure, we'll disable that. So
Oh,
it's only
okay,
going to
got it.
run this
Yep.
second one. That can be useful for diagnosing really complicated conditional logic. Sometimes we have some users that maybe have a couple of conditions that clash with each other.
Yep.
So maybe an else statement is blocking out something that another condition is doing. So by disabling conditions, you can actually almost use it as a debug tool to work out what's not working. So yeah, we go to here, we go to light. You say it says bright. If we go to dark color, it goes dark.
That's cool.
Yeah. So and that's just on a color field again. So every single field type has its own set of conditions that you
Yeah.
can work with. So for example, a file upload field, if you wanted to do something based upon whether a file upload field has something in it, we can go to conditional logic and we can say if file upload, file count equals, file count doesn't equal, has a file been selected, has no file been selected. So
Nice.
again, you can do stuff with a file field. You can do things with a select drop down. So if we add a select field to the form and we go into conditional logic and we say if select, then you can say has a row been selected? Has any row been selected? Has X number of rows been selected? You can also do stuff with select to, for example. So select to
Yep.
on a form will give you a nice little input where you can do a search on that data, and you can actually enable Ajax on that so that it's a bit more efficient because then With Ajax, what it's doing is it's not loading all of the available options into the form. Those options sit in the background on the server, and when you query it, it'll make an Ajax request, and then if results come back, it will then show that on the form. So you can actually determine whether or not that select to Ajax has returned results or not. Let's have a look at the events as well.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Just very quickly. You see, you've got the stack of conditions. You've got 3 currently. Do
Yep.
they run in the order from top to bottom? So is the hierarchy
Correct.
of that of significance or not?
It is, yeah,
Okay,
it is a hierarchy. You'll notice on the left-hand side there is a little arrow.
Saw
You
that.
can actually reorder these.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you find that you need to adjust, most of the time you don't need to
No.
adjust that order, but there may be a case where the output of this may impact a condition below that. In which case you would want that to be above or below it. So yeah, you can adjust that.
Can I just hijack the conversation a moment? Because
Absolutely.
Richie in the comments has asked a question, and I guess if we move on, it might not be pertinent. He says, "Not sure if you're taking questions. However, I'm curious if you could do this based on a value from another field in the form." And I don't. Yeah. So do you want to just quickly answer that? Or?
Yeah, let's show that. I apologise for clicking my mouse in and out. I've got the classic Apple mouse that you have to charge up from.
Beautiful design, lovely on top, but if you need to charge it, completely unusable.
Absolutely unusable. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It'd be nice if you could just leave it plugged in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's use the undo tool for a second. We'll go back to just the input A and input B that we had. So yeah, this kind of bleeds into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is variables, right? So let's go back to this. So we're back to input A and ABC. So when we have ABC in there, it's going to show input the output. Let's make it so that when input A equals input B, we'll show the output. So what we'll do is on input B, let's just put a default value in there of AB. Well, let's put something different in there, XYZ. We'll hit save, and then we'll go back to our conditional logic. Excuse me. And here we're saying if input A equals ABC, so we don't want to use ABC, we want to use the value of input B.
Got it.
The way you do that is you use a variable. So we can put hash field, and then we put the field ID in there, 731, because we want it to match input B. And you'll notice that even though we've typed that in, it's actually highlighted input B. It knows you want to work with input B.
Yeah.
Let's save that. And now if we type in XYZ on input A, it will only show when it matches input B.
Got it.
Now you can mix up variables with regular text. So we could say if input A equals ABC, and then the value of the hash field 731, then show the output. So for that, if we save that and go back here, we would have to type in ABC XYZ, and then it will then show the output. So you can combine variables with regular input. Let's have a quick look at. Did that answer?
I don't know if I think it would have done. And then he asked a follow-up question. I don't know if you want to go into that now. You can see it. I'll raise it, and if it's something you want to hold off until the end, we can. He says, "Okay, great. An example that I could see being used would be you have a drop-down select field that's dynamically populated with a custom post type of teachers, and then after a teacher is selected, it will display basically information about that teacher. So in this case, the classes that person teaches. So we've got a custom post type. It's called teachers. And if you select a particular teacher, it shows they do biology, history, math, or whatever.
Yeah, I think my posts are empty, so we could show a quick example of that.
Oh, brilliant. Well done.
So we'll just very quickly put some data in here. Like, teacher 1.
Validation fail. Oh, have you got some conditional things there?
Yeah, I've got some conditional. I've got some ACF stuff in here. So let's just put teacher 1 at wsform.com. Let's just try that.
Oh, I see. You've got a mandatory email address in there.
Yeah. Because I wanted to show the integration with ACF eventually. So let's just add another one.
Teacher 2, I'm guessing.
Teacher 2 in there.
And teacher 2 at wsform.com. Yeah. I know what you're going to do, Mark.
You've got me
I've
sus.
got your sauce. Yeah, simple stuff.
Yeah. We'll do one. Let's just quickly do one more.
Okay. Oh, teacher 3 by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it.
Put a teacher 4 just to throw you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just to keep me on my toes. I'll tell you what, Richie, you're getting the best out of Mark today.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Getting the
you
full
are.
service.
Yeah.
Right, so there we go. So we've added some posts now. So let's refresh this. And so Richie mentioned adding a select field. So we'll go to select, and we're going to open that select field up. And he wants us to populate that from those posts, correct?
Yep.
So we're going to go to data source. And we're going to choose posts. And we're going to choose, now this would obviously say teachers, but we don't have that custom post type set up. So we're just going to choose post. And if we go down here and we do get data, there's our teachers.
Yeah, nice.
And so if we hit save on that, now let's just double check something on here. Now, because the data is dynamic, we don't allow choosing by row, because if we said, okay, choose row 3, that dynamic data may change. You may add another teacher or remove a teacher.
Got it.
What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to map the title,
right? Yeah.
just for argument's sake,
Yep.
to the value that will be selected for that select field, just so that we know what we're working with. Okay, so we'll go back to conditional logic. Now let's just delete the conditional logic that we've got. We'll add some. So we're going to go if the select field, and then we can say the selected value equals teacher 2, for example. And we'll save that information. Now, this is not going to be an exact...
No, it's not going to map exactly because we don't have the subjects, do we? But
yeah, I don't have all the details in there. But just for argument's sake, let's just create a text editor field here. And then we'll maybe make that information about teacher 2. Was it teacher 2 I chose?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then in the conditional logic in here, we'll then say, okay, if that's true, then we'll make that section about the teacher visible.
Got it.
Save that, preview that. So we want to go, oh, hang on a minute. I must have done something wrong with this logic.
Let's look. If selected value equals teacher 2, then you've also got an else. I don't know if that's important.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Let's try switching that text editor on off instead. Visible. Selected value equals. That should work.
Let's see.
Selected 2. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So if it's anything other than that particular value, then it's gonna show that information on.
And presumably, in the case of that being a custom post type, you instead of saying a text editor which has just got the hard coded data of teacher 2, it could dynamically pull in the I don't know, the repeater field in ACF, which is all the subjects that you
correct.
Got it. So it works, Richie. It can be done.
It can be done, yeah. And if we go to, let me just try something else. We go to select here. You'll notice that we can actually include ACF field data.
Oh, nice.
In there. So let's see what we've got. Post file. I don't think I've got much fun stuff in there.
Well, you set the email, didn't you?
Yeah, let's do the email.
Yeah.
So if we add that and then go to get data, you'll notice now if we scroll right, we've got the email.
So you've added that into the list of consumable data.
Yeah, I put teacher 4 instead of teacher 3. But
it's all right, we're after teacher 2. It's fine.
Yeah. So let's just try something. On input B, I just want to show, because this kind of goes on to the next section, which was about variables that we were talking about. So if we go to input A on here, and then the default value, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put hash text, then I'm going to put hash field, and then we'll put 736 in there. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to pull out the value from that select and show that in this default value for that input. And the hash text qualifies it and makes it dynamic, so it'll update automatically.
Got it. Okay.
So if we hit
That's
save
something new we just learned. Right. Nice.
Yeah. So if we put teacher 1, you'll see that the ID of teacher 1 is now going to appear there because we're asking for the value. So we go teacher 2. Then we've got the value in there. So you'll see that's changing dynamically. Yeah. Now, what you can do is you can actually choose which column you want to appear because we're using data grids. This is one area where WS Form is very different. So the syntax for that is you actually put a separator for multiple values,
Yep.
and then we're going to put the column, which would be email.
Yep.
So if we save that and then look at the form, you'll notice,
We were so hopeful. What did
we
you
were
do?
so hopeful, yeah.
What did you do?
What is that column
Is it
called?
email? Was it called email?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Option.
Everything's breaking today, isn't it?
Well, let's see.
Let's see. Let's go get data.
It
Oh,
was
you
the
know what?
last
I may
column.
not have saved it. That was probably the problem. Yeah. Let me just go title, save and close. Let's see. That's the value. Yeah, I don't know why that's not working. I must have
Maybe a
something
bug,
wrong.
maybe not.
Could be a bug, but that's very unusual because we have a lot of people using that. Let's see.
I know Mark well enough to know that this is going to annoy the heck out of him.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Comma email
736.
It's weird because we've got a demo on the actual site that does it. I'll show you that in a second, and then I'll have to because this is our test server. Yeah, it is email, so that should work.
That is.
Let's have a quick look on the WS Forms site, and I'll show you. So if we do a search for column, and we use fill with delimiter from column, let's see if this one works. So yeah, so here, this is an example of that actually. I don't know why it's not working on that other site because this is actually running exactly the same version. But here's an example of a data grid where we've got several rows and several columns in that data. And what we're doing is we're using exactly the same format as I was just showing you. So if I click on product 1, it's pulling out the label column into that label field.
Yep.
So you'll see that there. For color, we're putting out that color column into that particular default value, material, width, and length. So it enables you to pull multiple columns out, and you could then use those columns in a calculation if you wanted to. So for example, if you wanted to show the area, you could multiply the width by the length using our calculated fields. Right. I'll show you that in a second as well. So that's another way of making data on a form dynamic is by pulling out data from different columns and then putting those into the default value of fields. Now, you can go a little bit further than just setting the default value as well. Let's see. So if we do a search in here for label, maybe. Yeah, dynamic label placeholder and help. So as well as changing the default value of a field, you can also change the label, the placeholder, and the help text dynamically as well. So I can actually change the label by using hash text hash field on an actual label. You can change the placeholder. You can change the help text. So you may want to change the help text based upon different things that have gone on the form. So that can all be done dynamically as well. So the variable we're using for that is hash text. So let's just start a new form, and we'll just build a blank form out, and let's just add a couple of text fields. So in here, if I put hash text, hash field, if I could type properly, 738, and save that. So all we're doing now is we're telling WS Form. We want to echo the value of that into that second field. So if we preview that, whatever I type in there is then going to appear in the field below it. That could be useful for maybe like an address and a shipping field. So you could copy address line 1 to address line 2. It goes a little bit further than that. So not just text fields. You can do that with other things, maybe like with a range slider. So if we add 2 range sliders to this, I can actually copy the values between those 2 elements as well. So I can put hash field 740. If I save that down, I can actually do that in multiple fields as well. So if I want to show that in a text field as well, we can do that too. So if we preview that, you'll notice now the range sliders are in sync with each other because we're copying the value between them, and we're putting that value into a text field down at the bottom. You can also put that in other types of fields. So if you wanted to maybe put in a text editor field, which text editor fields let you just put some text on the field, maybe some instructional information, but we could maybe put an H1, put the text in there, save that, and now we've got that shown as, you know, a nice piece of text in a text editor field at the bottom.
That's great.
In addition to that, you can then do calculations. So this is where so we've done hash text. So hash text is basically used for copying one value to another.
Got it.
You can also do hash calc. So if we do that, let's change that hash text to hash calc. That at the moment is going to do exactly the same thing. It's just going to calculate that value, which is going to give you literally that value. But we can do something else like multiply that by 10. I'll make that a bit bigger so you can see it. So
Yep.
we're going to take the value of field 740 and we're going to multiply that by 10. So if we save and close that and preview it, you'll now notice it's now doing some calculation on that. You can do calculations between fields as well. So if you wanted to multiply that by the value of field 741, which is the other range slider.
This number's going to get big quickly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So you can see now it's multiplying these two values together.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And you can load that value maybe into a hidden field and then use it in other parts of the calculation to build much more complex calculations. So if we go into calculated, actually, let's go to WS form up here. We'll go down to the footer. We've actually got a template library you can have a look at. And we've got calculators. So these are some calculators that are actually built in to WS Form that you can load. You can actually download these, use them. They're also in our template library. And these give you some examples of how to build out some more complex forms. So here, for example, is a mortgage. Nobody likes looking at these figures, right?
Yes.
But yeah, you can use this to build out a mortgage calculator, a car payment calculator. If you want to play with those, you can just go to Add New. And if you go to calculators, here are those demos. And we can go into mortgage calculator, for example.
So that's just pulling in the template that you've just... Oh, and there it is. Okay.
There it is, yeah. So there's the horrible looking calculation that is used to work that out. But if we look at that, what this is doing, it's using hash e-commerce underscore price. And what that will do is format that number into a nice looking price based upon your currency settings that you have. If you're using WooCommerce, actually, it will use those WooCommerce currency settings. And then the hash calc, everything between here and that second bracket, is the calculation used to work out what the monthly payment is. You'll notice there's a hash POW.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, yeah.
So if we go to our knowledge base and we'll go to calculated fields, there are a bunch of different kind of arithmetic and other math variables that you can use. You've got basic stuff like addition, subtraction, and you'll see it's very similar to what we were doing. So you've got hash calc.
Yeah, so that's an add, a subtract, a star, and a slash. Yep.
And then under math variables, you've got some more complicated stuff that you may need for working out some complex stuff. So for example, we have some customers that will build roofing calculators or calculated costs based upon window types and stuff that you're using. So there's a lot that you can do with this to build some quite complicated calculations. You can also do average as well between fields. So if you've got 4 different number fields here, you can work out the average using the hash AVG variable. And in that, you then just put a comma separated list of
just working out the mean of that, is it, I guess?
Yeah, of those numbers, yeah. It'll even work with repeatable sections as well. So this gets a little bit complicated, but here is a section that's outside of a repeater. Here we have 2 repeatable sections. So we've got 2 rows here. You'll notice we've got the little icons here that let you add and remove rows. And then we've got another normal section below that. But let's just have a look here. So this is outside of the repeater. These are inside repeaters. And within here, we're saying copy the value of this range slider into this row. So as I reduce that down, you'll notice that the repeatable section there is adjusting according to what's outside, but it's doing it to both repeaters because we've got 2 rows. If I had another row, it'll do the same, and automatically it will copy those. This one here is calculating 100 minus this value here. So if I adjust the outside value, they all adjust. If I adjust it inside the repeater, only that row will update.
Got it.
So you see there's a chain reaction going on.
Yeah.
So, and the way we do that is that all of our calculations, our conditional logic and everything, they use standard browser events. So what I mean by that is if I move this and it adjusts this value here, we fire a change event on that range slider, which in turn will trigger any other calculations that rely on that field.
Got it.
So, but it won't run it again if the value doesn't change. So we don't get any, crazy loops going on. So the nice thing about that is if you've got some custom JavaScript that you're running and you want to do it based on events, it will work with WS Form. So you can actually mold your own JavaScript into this if you really wanted to. But that's way off topic. I mean,
that's fun though.
Yeah. So that's there's a lot that does. Let's talk about the hash if and hash end if variable, which is another thing that you can use to make fields dynamic. So let's just do a search for if end if. You'll find a lot of useful information in this knowledge base. So the hash if and hash end if variables let you switch content on and off based upon an expression, a little bit like conditional logic, but it does it in line with whatever content that you're playing with. And there's an example here. So what we've got is value A and we've got value B. And this is saying, does value A equal value B? Yes, value A does equal value B. So if I change that to a banana, you'll see that those values change dynamically in that content.
Yeah.
So again, if I put that back to apples, if I put something else at the end of it, you'll now see it doesn't match it, but it does
contain it.
Yeah. So if we go back to template, I believe we've got this as a template. Let's have a look. Demos. Let's see. If not, we can download it and I can show people how that works. Yeah, we don't. So that'd be a good time to show that.
So you just go to the website. You can download that demo with that there.
Yeah.
Button. Right. Nice.
Yeah. So you can download that. That'll give you a JSON file. And what you can actually do is drag that into a blank form.
Oh, simple.
And there's our hash if and hash end if form that we're playing with. If we go into that message, we'll expand this out. Oh, hang on, this might be, I'm trying to remember how I built this now. Yeah, here we go.
There it is.
Yeah, now this is a little bit complicated, but you can see how it's working. It's just a bunch of ifs and end ifs. And here are the conditions within that to say whether or not it equals or does not equal. So we're saying if field 748 equals field 750, then show this text. If it does not equal, then say value A does not equal. Now, that's an example of putting that into an HTML field. You can also put that into an email template, for example. So you can actually use those conditions in email templates to adjust how an email template behaves. So you could, for example, have a checkbox or a radio button with A and B, and based upon A and B, you could then show different content within that send email that gets sent out. So you can build dynamic email templates. We do have an example of that. So you can do, if you do a search for custom HTML, I believe, you've got writing custom HTML and email content for PDF templates and email templates. Then this gives you an example of how to actually build dynamic templates in an email. So by default, when you create an email in WS Form, let's go to actions where that would be sent. And we look at that send email action. It's a very simple template. It just has the email subject. You'll see that's got a hash on it as well. So it shows it's one of our variables. And then we have a variable called hash email submission. And that hash email submission will automatically create a nice looking summary of your submitted form.
Right.
If you want to build something much more complex or custom or dynamic, you can do that. And there's an example here of how to do that. So you can see here's a row that shows the field label and the value of the field. Within a P tag, which is a paragraph tag, we've made that label strong. So if you're proficient in HTML, you can use this method to actually build a custom template. And again, you can put those if conditions within there to switch fields on and off if you want to.
Got it.
You can even build nice looking tables for repeatable data if you want to.
There you go. This is amazing.
Yeah, so there's a lot you can do. I'm not going to go into that in detail because it's, we would be going on forever, but just wanted to show that the capability is there. So as well as having those dynamic variables on the form itself, you can also use those in actions and do things like that. just wanted to show back on the conditional logic as well how to use events on particular parts of a form. So in its simplest form, let's just add a button. So we have what's called a custom button, where you can do pretty much anything you want with it. Let's add a custom button there, and we will add some text. And let's go to conditional logic, and we can say something like, if that button is clicked. So you'll see here we're in the event section.
Yep, the bottom. Yep.
Clicked, and then we can do then, and then on that text field, let's just do set visibility on it, and we'll say otherwise text. Actually, no, we're not going to do an else on that. I'll tell you why we're not going to do an else on that, because the button doesn't have an else condition.
Okay.
So we'll save that, and we'll make that text field hidden by default so it doesn't show. And we'll preview that. Okay, so we hit the button and the text field shows.
Got it.
Simple. So you can use buttons to show and hide content. You can also do that with tabs as well. So if we go to, let's add a second tab, and we'll just put a number field in there, for example. And we'll go to conditional logic, and we can say, right, if that button is clicked, then tab will set that tab visible.
Oh, nice. So this is like the next section button, right? You can't.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we have navigation
built in. I know, but yeah.
This will kind of show you how that's done. Yeah, so if we hit that button, then that is then made visible. So you can actually use conditional logic to switch tabs on and off, sections on and off, fields on and off, all kinds of stuff. Now we do, you know, as you just said, we do have next tab and previous tab buttons built into WS Form already, so you can use those. But if you wanted to do something custom, you could do that. So you can do, you know, more crazy stuff with this. We do have some customers asking about form abandonment and what they can do to preserve data as someone is filling out a form. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful with GDPR and make sure that people are aware that you're doing things like that.
Right.
But for example, let's do something like an email address. In WS Form, we have a thing called a save. So there's a form submission, which is when the form is actually submitted. There's also a save feature as well. And what save will do, it's very easy to use. If I just go down to buttons, we can add a save button to that form. And if we preview that, if I just put something in here like test@test.com and I hit save, that has actually saved that information as a submission in WS Form. If I refresh that page, it'll bring that data back because it has remembered that we've got a session in play. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear that session from the debug console down here. You'll see there's a nasty looking string here. That's the session ID. We'll clear that. So when we refresh that form, that data is now gone. Now, you may not want to have a save button there. You may just want to save the fact that an email address has been entered. So what you can do is go to conditional logic. Let's delete the old condition. We'll add a new one. We can say if the email, go down to events. Let's do on change. Then we'll go form and we'll run a save.
Whoa, cool.
Save and close. So if we watch this debug console at the bottom here, and I put in some data, and I move my mouse away, it's going to trigger a change event, and you'll see now it's actually saved the data in the background. So you can use events to do stuff that the user may not necessarily see. So you could also do things like if the email address is changed here, then copy that email address to another field on another tab. So you may want to, you know, if you want to duplicate data at the point that it's changed, then you could do that. It goes on and on and on. There's a lot more stuff that we can do. Let's just quickly look at the validation side of this as well. So we'll just create a very simple form first. Let's use a contact us form. You may want to run a save event or do something when a form has validated. So you may not want to save that data until the actual data that's been entered is valid. But let's just do another example. We'll put a text field here. And let's say, go into conditional logic, and we'll say if the form is validated, then we'll set that text field, we'll set the value to say validated. Save that. And we'll preview it. And now that is now empty. Let's now fill the form out. Com. We'll check that box. And now the form is validated. That text now says validated. So you could do anything you want with that being validated.
So that could be like, you finished this section, all of the required things are done, move on.
Yep.
Okay, you got
So you could show, for example, we could add a message field. And in that message field, we could make that a success message. And we could put well done in there, whatever you want to put. Save, go back to our conditional logic, and then we can say then message, set visibility to visible, delete that old bit there. So we've got, if the form is validated, we'll show that message, otherwise we'll hide it.
Got it.
Save that. Get back here.
Oh, you got to fill it out again. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll fill it out again. So you can use that to show a message whether or not the form is validated or not. Now we would need to hide that by default, obviously. I think that was maybe what was going on with the other stuff that we were doing.
There we go.
So we do test at test.com. Click on that. And there's
Yay!
Yeah, so you can switch things on and off by using that conditional logic. What's the other thing I wanted to show? Just trying to remember.
You had data variables, post meta, user meta. Was that it?
Oh no, I wanted to quickly show the JavaScript side of conditional logic as well. So let's delete that condition. Let's add a condition here. So we'll say form when a form is validated. Then you can also do this. You can do form. And you can run JavaScript. So if you want to run your own JavaScript when something happens.
The old alert.
Yeah, the old yay.
Yeah.
Hit save on that and go back to contact us. Now
you got to fill it out again.
Well, I'm not, am I? Because I got a debug.
Oh, that's true. You got the debugger. Yeah.
I can hit populate.
Populate. Yay!
It populates it for us and shows the alert. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so the populate feature is a nice feature because it automatically, if you didn't see the previous video that we did, the populate feature fills out the form for you. So when you're testing, you can use that to very rapidly complete a form. So if I refresh this, hang on, let's just save that.
Save it.
Always got to save it. And you'll notice here in the debug console, we have a populate button. And when I click that, it puts different data in every time. So that's a really nice feature for testing forms. And
that is super cool. Yeah, that is super cool.
Nice and quick. Yeah. So I think, that's most of the conditional logic stuff covered. So there was a question.
It's Marcus Burnett. Hi, Marcus. Thank you. He says, is it possible to show the next tab when the current tab is validated?
Yes, you can. There's two ways you can do that. I'll show you the hard way first.
Yeah, and then the built-in way.
Let's copy this tab. Let's just put tab 2 there and tab 1 there. And we'll just put a bit of text at the top so that we know this is tab 1. And in this one, we'll add some text to this one and we'll put tab 2. Just so we can see where we are. We'll preview that. So we've got tab 1 and tab 2. So Marcus wants to show tab 2 if tab 1 is validated. So what we're going to do is put some conditional logic in here. And we'll say if tab 1 is validated, then tab 2, set visibility to visible, otherwise make it hidden.
Got it. So it's going to be actually hidden. Yeah.
Hidden initially, Yep. So we'll put some. I'm not going to use the populate tool on this, just so you can see it working. And then we'll validate it by clicking this checkbox, and then there's tab 2.
There it is.
Yeah. Now we can get to tab 2. Now there's an easier way of doing that, but that does show you how you can do that with conditional logic. Let's remove that conditional logic. Now, one of the nice things about WS Form is we have a lot of functionality built into it, so you don't have to build some of this stuff. So if we go to Form Settings, in the Basic tab, if you go down to the tab section, you'll see here it remembers the last tab that was clicked. You can enable or disable that. There's also a thing called tab validation. And what tab validation will do is it will prevent the user from moving to the next tab until the current tab you're on has been completed.
So it's not a show hide thing. It's just you can't get there.
Yeah, you can't get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will actually disable it. So
Yeah.
you can't actually see it. It's only when I fill that form out that it will then enable that tab,
Right.
and I can then move to it. Now, what will happen is if I add on tab 1, if I add a next tab button to it, let's just put it at the top so we can see it. It will actually control that button for you as well. So if I fill this out, and then we check that box, you'll see now that next button is now valid. So it actually, as well as handling the disable on the tab itself, it will handle any navigation elements related to the tab navigation too. You can go a little bit further. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say he's got a follow-up question, and I agree, Marcus. It's probably not the best UX, but anyway, he says, is it possible to automatically switch to the next tab?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So you could do, and I'll show you how you do that. Let's get rid of the automatic tab validation. Just quickly on that, you can also show invalid fields as well.
Okay.
So if someone clicks on the next button, it will say and show all the invalid
as if
fields
you'd submitted the form. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah. But we'll switch that off just for now. It's save and close. So let's go back to our conditional logic. We'll build that same conditional logic again. So we were saying if the first section is validated,
that was it.
Then show
tab 2 and hide if not.
And then when we show it, you want it to move to the next tab. So the way you do that is you choose the tab and you say click it.
Oh yeah.
Close. Yeah. So we go into here. So it's currently hidden. Test.
Here we go. Click that, and then
and let's do that, and it's moved to tab 2.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah.
There you go, Marcus.
So it is possible.
Yeah, it is possible. slightly discombobulating if that were to happen. Yes. Whoa! What went on there? Can I just throw something in quickly because we've got John.
Yeah.
Who thanks, John, for joining us. He says, how do you activate the debugger?
I'll show you how to do that. Yeah, so the debugger is a pro feature. It's not in light, so you need to have the WS Form Pro Edition. And then if you go to settings on the left-hand side in the admin, you'll notice in the basic tab under preview, you've got debug console. And it sounds, John, like you might have it set to off. So you want to set that either to administrators only or show always. So the administrators only will only show the debug console. Oh, I've disabled my preview. Will only show it if you're logged in as an admin. So that means that regular users coming to the site won't see it. If you're still in the development process and maybe you want that debug console to be available to a client, perhaps, you can set it to always on. And then everybody would be able to see it and interact with that debug console. So,
great. Thank you.
And if when you go through the onboarding process with WS Form, if you selected that you're quite new to Forms, we actually disable that debug console by default. So you can come in here and switch that on if you need to. This, incidentally, is where you switch on and off the live preview feature of WS Form. So if we create a form, let's just do a contact us form.
John says thank you, by the way, just so that you know.
Yeah. So let's do that. Let's preview that form. So I'm going to pull that form out just so you can see the preview on the screen at least.
Yeah.
If we adjust something on this form, maybe, let's see, move that over the way a bit.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to do.
Get a bit squashed.
Yeah.
But if I maybe adjust the width of the first name field here, you'll notice it updates in real time here. So it's just if you've got a nice big monitor or a couple of monitors, you can actually interactively modify that form.
So that's the live preview toggle. Got it.
Correct. Yeah. And that's what that does there. So you can actually switch that on and off. Yeah, you can also choose which template you want to use for that preview. So we try to choose the correct one, but some themes have some funny layouts that you might not want to work with. We have a fallback here to blank page, and that just gives you a very blank looking template preview if you want. So there. Yeah,
thank you.
There you go.
Yep.
That's that.
That's all the questions, so we can keep going.
Yeah. So just another couple of variables I wanted to show people. If you go to our knowledge base and type in variables. We've got a couple of knowledge base articles I just wanted to make people aware of. First of one is the variable reference. Now that one actually has a library of all of the available variables that we have in WS Form. There's a lot of them.
It really is.
But if you wanted to say show the blog name somewhere on your form, let's just show that. Then we can go into here and we could maybe add a text editor field. And we can just put that in there, save and close. And then when you look at that form, it'll put in the actual blog name. So you can use variables to pull in all kinds of stuff like the current date. You can even pull in post metadata as well. So if your form is on a post, you can use the variable post meta. So it's hash post underscore meta, and then this would be your meta key here. And you can use that to pull out data dynamically from the post, the page, whatever custom post type your form is sitting on, to pull in data dynamically with that.
Kind of handy in like emails,
Yeah.
the email that goes out, you were on such and such a page, or I don't know, the calculated total was, or
I think we've got one which is, I think it's request URL, save.
Oh, you've actually got, okay, nice.
Yeah, so that will pull in the current URL. You can put that in a hidden field and map it somewhere. We do have some tracking features, which I believe we went through on the last video, that make that a bit easier. But so you can use those variables. There's lots of different variables in there that you can choose from. There's actually a little hamburger icon here as well. If you click on that, you can use that to like insert the fields. So if you can't, see a field name, you can actually just click on here and pull that in.
Nice.
And all the other variables are in here. There's all all manner of stuff that you.
There's a lot.
Play around. Yeah. So yeah, have a play around with those, and that variable page shows all of them. We also, if you type in the word cheat into the knowledge base, we've actually got a variable cheat sheet, which shows you some of the more common things. You don't have to trundle through that variable list to find what you're looking for. So you've got things like we were showing today with the putting in a column dynamically from a data grid. You've got things like calculations. Let's just see. So this is quite a useful one, submit ID. If you, in an email, you can actually show the submission ID as a reference.
So you can track that down real quick.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you could say, thank you for your inquiry. Here's your ID number, and that would give you submit ID, and then you can use that in submissions to pull that back. The ifs and end ifs that we went through, stuff like the blog name, the blog date, blog time. And you can even put in stuff from query variables as well. So I'll show you a quick example of that. If we go into our form and our default value here, let's put hash query variable test, like that. Save. So if we preview that form, there's nothing in there right now, but if we add a query variable up here, put test equals 1, 2, 3, it's going to pull in that query variable into your form.
Nice.
So you can pass data
pass
from
data around all over the place.
Yeah. Okay, so that's some of the other variables that we've got. And I think we're going to do another episode on custom field variables, custom field plugins like ACF and things like that. I think so. I'm not going to go into that on this one.
That's episode 4, I think.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's just quickly have a look at cascading fields. I know we're starting to run short.
Don't worry, I'm good for time if you are.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as there's enough megabytes in the world to record this video.
Yes.
So let's have a look at cascading and what that does. So cascading enables you to show multiple fields to drill down on information. So an example would be choosing a vehicle. So here we've got, say, we could choose Ford. It will then show models for Ford. And if we choose a model, it will then show the available years for that model. So that's what cascading is. You're basically drilling down on information. You can do that with select fields. You can do that with checkboxes. And you can do it with radio fields. You can also mix them up. So you could do a region could be a checkbox, sub-region could be a radio, country could be a select box. So you can mix them between.
Yeah.
So I'll show you how that's done. If we go into, let's actually, I think we've got that as a demo. So let's see, it's got to add new. And go to demos. And there you go, cascade.
Cascade, there you go.
Yeah, this is slightly different demo, but it will show you how it works. So we've got make, model, and year. So the first radio here is pretty straightforward. So you go to radios in the sidebar. Here's our 3 different makes: Toyota, Ford, and Honda. If we go to model, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. But if we edit that field and we go to options and we expand that out, so now what you'll notice is we've got a make column.
Oh, I see. Yep.
And we've got model. So this is saying if you choose Toyota, we're going to show Camry, Matrix, and Prius. So there's our 3 for Toyota. If you choose Ford, it's going to choose Focus, Mustang, and Taurus. So it's a 2-column situation. And the first column is basically saying if the first field selection equals that, we're going to show these 3 rows.
Yeah.
The way that's configured is below column mapping here, we've got a cascading section. And all you have to do is just enable it. And then we say that our make column is what we're going to filter it by. And we're going to use this field and we're going to filter on that column, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So this first field here is select a make, and we're going to filter the value of that in this column and show those rows. Now, if you've got a huge amount of data, you can click on Use Ajax, and it'll actually retrieve that data dynamically from the server. So in form performance, like I said on the previous video, actually, select fields are just notoriously slow. They just don't render very, very well. But by using Ajax, you can make sure that all those options aren't already on the actual form itself when it's loading, and they're loaded dynamically, and it just makes it run a lot quicker.
Yeah, because this is the kind of area where you really could have a massive spreadsheet of stuff.
Yeah. We had a customer who had a list of all the prisons in the US, which was separated, I think, by state and county, and that was an immense amount of data. So they used the Ajax feature, and it just made it run.
Speeded it all up.
Yeah, nice. Awful lot quicker.
Nice.
Okay, let's have a look at webhooks quickly. So what a webhook does is a webhook will make a request off to a third-party API or even an API you've created, return data back, and then use that on the form itself. So you can use it as a lookup feature. So you could do like a vehicle VIN lookup or something fun like this. So let's go to webhook. We'll do a search for that. We've got a demo on here. This is using the randomuser.me API.
Nice. There is such a thing, of course.
There is such a thing. Yeah. It randomly
Kitty
generates.
Smith. There she is.
There she is. There's Kitty. So what this does is when you click this button, it runs an action to retrieve a random person and then loads the data we get back into fields on that form. Every time you click get random person, it's going to get another random person. I believe these are AI generated as well.
Yeah, it's like images. That. This person's not real.com or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just fake. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
So if we download that demo and we'll eradicate our current form, we'll drag this into there, the file that we just got.
Oh, if you do that, you eradicate your previous form, right? There's no.
Yeah. But if you do that by accident, you can use undo and go back to
Yay! Nice.
So yeah, you're not necessarily going to break it. Now on this form here, you'll see that we've got a custom button similar to the custom button that we created earlier, and then we've got the fields that we want to fill out, and then we've got a HTML field which I'm using to actually put that image into. So there's a little bit of custom code there, but I'll show you how this works. We're using conditional logic, and when we click on that, we're saying if the get random person button is clicked, we're going to run the webhook action. We're going to run it immediately. So let's go to our actions and have a look at that. And there's our webhook action that we've created. And if we edit that, it's a webhook action. And we're saying go to that endpoint there, which is their API. We're using a get method. And there are different methods that you can use. I won't go into that here. And then we're saying we want to use JSON data to send it because that's what the API requests. And it basically, we don't send any parameters to that endpoint because it just gives us a random user. But if you did need to send information using that webhook, you can use field mapping here and actually send data from your form across to them. And then here is the response mapping. So we're using the data that we're getting back from that API, and we're loading that into these form fields. So you can add any number of different mappings from the data you get back into a form field. And that's basically what this is doing. And then we are loading in, I believe, let's see here, the picture URL into this hidden field here. So if we look at that mapping again, I'll try and keep this fairly simple, but you'll
That's
see
okay.
here, here's the picture mapping.
Yep.
Loading it into picture URL, which is
Yeah.
our hidden field here. We don't want to show the user the URL. We want to show them
The actual picture.
So if we go back into conditional logic, you'll see we've got a show picture condition here. And we're saying when that picture URL changes,
Oh, you're wrapping it in an image tag.
we're then
Yeah.
pushing that into an image tag and putting that into this HTML field to show that image.
Okay, so there's a few hoops to jump through there, but that all makes total sense. Great.
Yep. And you'll see, because you remember I was talking about the daisy chaining of events.
Yep.
Because we put the image URL into that hidden field, a change event gets fired, in which case this if statement here will run, and it will then run this particular then condition here, this then statement. So that's how that works. So that's webhooks. You can do some really cool stuff.
Oh, I'll bet you can get super nerdy with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have people using that for like vehicle VIN lookups and all kinds of stuff. And that stuff all works on the fly. There's no form redirects or page refreshing going on. It's all done behind the scenes for you. And then you can get a little bit more in depth with it. You can actually run WordPress hooks, and I'm not going to go into building a WordPress hook and everything, but if you are a PHP developer and you want to write your own code to do something server side and then bring back some data to the front end, yes, you can use a webhook, but you can also run a WordPress hook. So we go to run WordPress hook here. If you're familiar with WordPress hooks, there's basically two different types. There's an action, which will just do something. And there's a filter where you're actually filtering the data and returning data back again. And all you do with this is you just say, I want to run a WordPress hook. You choose the type, a filter or an action. And then you type in the hook tag. It's the name of the hook. So it might be, my hook in your PHP code. And then you can say whether you want to run that after or before other actions have run. So there may be something, let's just say, for example, you're adding a form to a Zendesk ticket, support ticket, and that gives you a ticket ID back, and you want to use that in your hook.
Got it.
You would therefore run that after actions, and then you can use that ID number.
Yep.
If you want to use this to set something on the form, and then that is then used by other actions, you can run it before other actions. So you can choose the priority there. There is a knowledge base article about that. Run WordPress hook. And this has a bunch of different examples on it that show you how to do that. So, for example, if you want to run a filter hook or an action hook, and there's sample code in here for different things that you can do. So you can do things like set a field value based upon the response from your PHP, show a custom message, show an error message, redirect off to another URL. You can even set a spam level. So if you want to use your WordPress hook and you want to check something and set a spam level on that particular submission, you can do that. And then you can also halt processing altogether and say, no, stop processing this form. So there's a lot you can do with that run WordPress hook. Again, not going to go into all the PHP behind it, but if you're a PHP coder, everything is there for you. All right, and that's it.
Oh, wow. Honestly, Mark,
Breathe in.
We're only on to session 2 of 6, and I feel that we're already discovering that it is truly mighty. There was an awful lot in there. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I really appreciate it. Just in case anybody's watching this, where is the best place to hit you up for info about anything they may have seen? Where can they go for that?
Yeah, so wsform.com is the main site. That's where you've got the knowledge base. If you've got any questions, you can use our contact us form there. If you want to learn about us and follow us, we're on Twitter, which is at ws_form. And then we're on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook WS Form community that you can join if you're interested, and we discuss all things WS Form there.
Super nice. Now, so that was episode 2, so that one, well, you've just watched it, was about interactive forms. We're going to be back next week, same time, so whatever time it is now, if you're watching live. But next week, we're on to the important subject of preventing form spam, form deliverability, which nobody ever talks about, actually, in all honesty, but that's a really important thing, and making your form efficient, form efficiency. So spread the word, let people know. If you want to leave us a comment on the post, we will have them under our demos section. If you go to the archives menu on the wpbuilds.com website, go to archives, go to demos, and it will be nestled in there somewhere right at the top. Yeah, so we'll see you next week, Mark.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Nathan. I appreciate it.
No, amazing. Thanks.